Prof, thank you so much for your time and a warm good afternoon to you. That is the question that everyone wants to know. How are then Stokvels managed? Because we understand they do operate, most of them at least, outside of course, and a few of them are only sort of entering in the financial institution realm.
Hi, Dumelo. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so we did some research in Khayelitsha. We spoke to 20 Stokvel members of a whole lot of different Stokvels. We did some focus groups. And yeah, it seems like you say that people are not taking their disputes to the magistrates' court. They are resolving them themselves. It seems from our research that, that people are in tight, cohesive units, mainly with neighbors, friends, people on their street, and that due to the social capital, if you like, almost this trust that people have between each other, as well as reputational mechanisms that you don't want people to say bad things about you because you don't pay your debt, that a lot of debts that people owe are resolved just by group pressure and by negotiation between members. We did find, that sometimes people were a little bit slow in paying, and then other institutions were called in. So either the Stokvel as a whole group would act, or maybe people would go to the street committee. Not everyone liked that option, or else even the taxi men were called in sometimes as dispute resolution agents. All sorts of different options.
So just for clarity, then, are Stokvels lawful?
Stokvels are lawful. In fact, it's very interesting how they sort of interwoven into the financial sector legislation. So the National Credit Act defines a Stokvel. The National Credit Act governs consumer credit. That's when money is lent to a consumer. So Stokvels are defined in the National Credit Act, and then the National Credit Act says a transaction between a Stokvel and a member of that Stokvel, in accordance with the rules of that Stokvel, is not covered by the Act, which means, for example, that if you borrow money from your Stokvel, there's no limit on the interest they can charge you. They don't have to follow the careful, complicated, expensive procedure in enforcing that debt against you. They don't have to do an affordability assessment on you. I don't know if these sound like good things, but they do mean that that money is able to circulate more easily between Stokvels and their members, curing problems of perhaps financial exclusion that might exist in townships or other areas where Stokvels are practiced. Right.
I want to bring in then the issue of COVID-19, because we do know that Stokvels, besides the financial aspect of it, is also a social, sort of activity where, members of the Stokvel gather around, particularly on a month where they're perhaps given the money to the member, or towards the end of the year where they're distributing groceries. It's more of a social activity, right? So how has the Stokvel then, or at least its activities, been impacted during this pandemic and lockdown?
Yeah, so unfortunately I can't comment on that because our field work was done in 2018, long before COVID. What we can say though is that, and of course this is speculation on my part, but that some Stokvels in the Khayelitsha area that we worked in Cape Town actually did quite a lot of their stuff through the banks. So some Stokvels, the money was paid by EFT. And not all Stokvels, some were still transacting in cash, but quite a lot of it was done electronically through banks in various mechanisms. So in theory, at least, some more sophisticated Stokvels where maybe the Stokvel has its own bank account or the members each have their own account, it would be possible to do this offline. But like I said, we haven't. Our field work is not current, so I can't say what is happening now. I mean, we wouldn't be allowed to go and do field work now anyway, right?
Yeah, indeed. So, I mean, I just know that growing up, when we saw our grandparents doing Stokvels, we were usually the kids sent around to go send invitations. So that obviously can't happen during this lockdown. So there seems to be a bit of disruption there in communities from that perspective. But thank you so much, Professor Andrew, for joining us right here on ENCA.